So, if you're thinking of moving to Louisiana, I'd love to give you a few things to consider before you take the plunge. My name is Paula, and I was born and raised in right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've lived here almost my whole life. I did briefly move away to Los Angeles for just a little window of time, but I'm back in Baton Rouge, so I know the capital area very well and have a pretty good grasp of facts about New Orleans and some of the smaller towns in Baton Rouge. So, first of all, if you're going to move to one of Louisiana's major cities, you should be aware of one fact. Well, this first fact. Some Louisiana cities have a very high crime rate, like shockingly high. Some studies indicate that Baton Rouge, where I live, has a violent crime rate of 47.2%, which is more than double the US average of 22.7%. Additionally, the capital city's property crime rate clocks in at 66.4%, which is nearly twice as much as the US average of 35.4%. Now, New Orleans has even more shocking statistics. Not only do many researchers label NOLA as the sixth most dangerous city in the US, but its crime rate is reportedly 150% higher than the national average. So I have a background in television news, and many of the police reports that would come across our desks in the newsroom were just horrific. People in small towns near Baton Rouge and in Baton Rouge itself would do these horrible things to other people behind closed doors, like just shocking things that I'm not even going to get into here. And there were also almost daily very public shootings that would usually involve someone getting angry at another person, typically a stranger, or sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, a domestic partner. And they would just whip out a gun and start shooting, and people would get hurt. And I'm telling you, things like that would happen every day. And Baton Rouge is not that big of a city. So that's why the crime rate was so high. So if you're kind of like looking to move to a small city with a friendly atmosphere where you can leave your doors unlocked and trust your neighbors, Baton Rouge and New Orleans do have friendly people. We really do. And we have a great culture here. It's nice, I will say that. But there are also high crime areas in these cities. So you have to be very careful. That means like lock your doors. Don't get in arguments with strangers because you just need to assume that most people you encounter are packing a gun that they know how to use and that they will use. So just be kind to people and be aware of your surroundings. Like I said, there are nice, or maybe I didn't say it, but there are nice neighborhoods in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, like the New Orleans area. But even residents in those really nice and upper class neighborhoods are targeted by people who steal cars or try to burglarize homes. So if you're going to move here, just take measures to keep your property and your person safe. That said, I will also add that there are smaller cities in Louisiana that are picturesque, they're really gorgeous, and they're a little bit safer. So if you're looking for a small town vibe, you might want to check out a little place called Covington, Louisiana. It's very cute, and I've even thought about moving there. Okay, second fact to consider is Louisiana's cost of living is low, but so are most wages here. According to Rent Cafe in 2023, the cost of living in Louisiana is 8% lower than the national average. And that's good news if you have like savings or a trust and you're all set and you want to just move here. But if you're looking to move here and kind of like start from scratch and make money here, that is doable. It's just that it will take a lot of effort because wages in Louisiana are typically quite low. It's not, I mean, it depends on everyone's situation, but just typically for the average person, the wages are not the greatest here. Um, yeah. So for example, I'll give you an example. My apartment, it's in a relatively safe area. It's okay here. Like it's gated and everything, but it's definitely not luxurious. It's definitely not high end. And it's a one bedroom and it's priced a little over 1,000 monthly. Now that would be amazing, like unbelievably amazing in a place like Los Angeles. Like you couldn't find that in LA. But in LA, a television news producer or a writer who works in news would make about $27 an hour. So that would be super nice if you're only paying it over 1,000 a month for your apartment. But here in Louisiana, that same job, when I worked as a producer and then I moved over to work as just a writer for the news, as a producer, I made about, if I remember correctly, it was about $14 an hour, 14, maybe 15. And then as a writer for the news station, I made 17, a different news station, I made 17 an hour. And I was very happy to get 17 an hour, but when you think about the cost of living, paying your rent, plus all your other expenses, because you also have to have a car to get around Baton Rouge. Don't do public transportation. You'll never get anywhere. Um, it's not enough. It's really not enough to cover just the basic necessities of life. And I don't have a child or a pet to add to that. So for that reason, because even though the cost of living is low compared to the US average, let's say it's here, for the average person, what we make is here. So it's like you're always trying to play catch up just to get by. And for that reason, the poverty rate here is super high because generally speaking, Louisiana workers simply are not paid enough. There's also a growing homeless problem here. Homelessness, I didn't say that word right. Like a growing homelessness problem here because of that. People just can't afford to pay their rent. Um, Now, all of that doesn't mean that it's just completely impossible to get by if you're starting from scratch. And that is nicely illustrated by a new crop of entrepreneurs who are starting their own businesses and creative endeavors that allow them to make extra money while working a 9 to 5 that doesn't pay so well. So, with those two incomes combined, it's doable. And plus, that if you have your own side business, it'll grow and grow and grow, and eventually you'll be all right. So, that's just something to be aware of, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible to make it here. Okay, a third fact to keep in mind is, and this one's a little bit sad to talk about. In Louisiana, discrimination is abundant. So sadly, this state is known as a place where people who look like me, dark-skinned people, were enslaved and forced to work on plantations. And Creole people were similarly treated just horribly and enslaved as well a lot of times too, as were some indigenous peoples. So of course slavery is now, it's deemed illegal. You can't do that. But the repercussions of the many years of that happening are still here. Uh, and I say that because as a dark-skinned woman, to be blunt, I hear echoes of it. I feel the repercussions of it. I have felt the repercussions of it on every single job I have ever had in the state of Louisiana. I didn't feel it so much, to be honest, when I moved to Los Angeles. But when I came back here, it was like, wow, we've really got some problems with discrimination and racism here. And that has come in the forms of like a supervisor who sees that I am creative and talented and eager to learn more, and they utilize those qualities by having me work extra hours, by giving me a lot of assignments. But what they don't give me is a promotion. They'll pat me on the back and say, "Oh, good job, you did great with that." But the promotion goes to a man who is not my skin color and who knows less, who has less experience than me. Like I would see that happen over and over and over again. And not just to me, but I would see it happen to other women, especially who are dark skinned. Also, for example, this is something that really happened. I was sitting in a waiting room, waiting for my car to get fixed. And there was one other person in there, and it was this lovely older man. Um, and it was not my skin color, but you don't really think about that. We were just talking because we were the only two people in the room. Had a really nice, deep conversation. It was an awesome conversation. And as I tell this story, I'm not saying this with any malice. Like, I adore that man. I don't remember his name, but I absolutely adore him, whoever he was. But this did make me very sad. During the conversation, he used the N word. And he said to me something like along the lines of, you're one of the nice ones. And I didn't even say anything back to him. I was just like, okay, and tried to change the subject. But things like that happen over and over and over and over again. And it's like a slap. It's not even a slap in the face. It's a punch to the gut. It's a punch to the soul. It just makes you feel, it makes me feel unworthy. And I know that other dark skinned people who've been through that feel the same way. So if you are a black or brown person and you want to move to Louisiana, I think you should. And please bring with you the confidence and self-esteem that will allow you to steamroll any prejudice and discrimination you encounter, because that would have a positive effect on our state. Um, and on the people who grew up here like me and who have lived through that. We don't realize how bad it is until we get out of it. And then we start to realize, oh, this is why I have such low self-esteem. This is why I feel bad about myself. Because I've basically been told my whole life I'm not good enough because of the color of my skin. So to have new people come in who don't have as much of what would you call it? The burden of that low self-worth or whatever related to racism and stuff, that would be awesome. It would help people like me. It would help other people of other races who want to see prejudice like wiped out and gone. So yeah, move here and please bring all your positivity with you. Okay, the fourth and final point is that Louisiana has very extreme weather. Um, I know we talk about the weather a lot, but no matter where we live, but Louisiana is bad, y'all. This summer, nearly every time I have gotten into my car to go somewhere, I just expect that after I come home, I'm going to be sick. Because being in the heat, it's just so bad, you're going to feel bad. Yesterday, when I got in my car, it was 105 degrees, and that's with an added bonus of massive amounts of humidity, which makes you feel like you can't breathe. So it's like someone's choking you, and also you're in an oven. It's terrible. So summers in Louisiana are deadly, and that means if you have like a chronic illness that heat can negatively affect, or sun, please be prepared for that. We also have hurricane season that's typically very active. It seems like almost every year some city in Louisiana experiences a massive flood or other damaging weather during hurricane season. And that means if you're going to move here, make sure that you move to a place that is not in a flood zone. Avoid flood zones, please. Don't move to one. And I know New Orleans, like the whole city is a flood zone basically, but I don't know. It's still a lovely city. It's just gonna get flooded badly one day again. But anyway, so if you move to a house, make sure that it's elevated. Also, make sure that whether you're in a house or apartment or whatever, sorry about the noise, make sure you have a go bag. And that means a bag that is full of like first aid supplies, a little bit of food, the kind of food that doesn't, I can't think of the word, but the kind of food that doesn't go bad quickly, um, like canned food, water, battery operated devices, tampons if you're a girl, other things that you might need if in case of an emergency. And keep your go bag someplace safe in your car or your home or both. It might help to have two go bags because it's likely you're going to have to use a go bag at some point. So, those four facts about Louisiana can hopefully help you prepare for your move here. And I'd also like to add that there are a lot of good, positive things about this state. And at the top of the list of positive things for me is the food. So I'm mostly vegan, which means I don't eat like the crawfish and the shrimp that's so popular here or the catfish. But the seasonings that Louisiana cooks put on their food, it's so good. Like I can taste it as I'm saying this. So they make even like just vegetables or other really simple dishes taste good because of the seasoning. It's just really good, and I've never tasted food quite like Louisiana style cooking anywhere else. And I love food, so I have tasted a lot. So yeah, you might want to move here just for the food alone. But thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far in the video. Thank you so much, and I hope that those tips were helpful and give you something good to think about. Um, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe.